In this video, I'm back again with another modular system for my dungeon rails. This time, it's cave and tunnel walls. Grab your gear and your dark vision, because it's time to go spelunking. This system is made up out of 3 main pieces. It consists of interior and exterior corners, as well as straights. Starting this project off, we're going to mill out some foam, and I'm going to make walls of 1 and 2 inches high, but all of them are going to be exactly 1 inch wide. After I've milled out my 1 inch blocks, I'm going to vary their lengths by 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 4 inch. Take note that you're going to need a lot more of the 1 inch ones than any other length. That way you can form the corners. After all your wall segments are cut, I'm going to go ahead and pop them into my wall channeling jig, which you can find stencils of down in the project overview, or you can find direct links to my design space on Patreon. Be sure to remember when you're doing this to leave about 1/3 of the 1 inch sections unchanneled. Now I'm going to move on to forming the corner sections. And for this, I used tacky glue because I have a boatload of it left over after my pots and planters video, but I think hot glue would work better, or at least faster in this scenario. As you can see here, interior corners are made up out of 2 channeled pieces and 2 unchanneled sections. And the exterior corners are made up out of 2 channeled and 1 unchanneled section. I'll finish channeling these corners later after the glue is dry. Also provided in the PDF is this texture stencil that I'm going to use, as well as a pen, to mark all the sides of my segments, ensuring that they line up and will be modular. When it comes to the corner segments, do your best to remember that you need to draw them on the correct side. Or you can be like me and you can draw them on the wrong side consistently. Getting this texture on the walls was really simple. But first, let me just say that PPE is important, and you should do this task in a well-ventilated area. And that's because I'm going to use my wood burning kit, which I have often referred to as a hot knife. But this time, I'm going to be attaching this flat circular top and melt away the channels. I also press the sides of the circle in random locations to break up those perfect channels wherever I felt like it. The last tip I'm going to give you on adding texture this way is to keep an extra paper towel or 2 around, or a spare towel so that you can wipe off the excess melted foam. This is going to stop it from being like, oh my god, there's a fire in the house. It was at this point I decided to grit the tops of all the segments. I did this primarily for future expansion to make multi-tiered and leveled caves. It was at this point in the craft where I remembered I hadn't finished channeling my corners. So I busted out my hot knife again and I carved out that section using that and a clay sculpting tool. So now I moved on to adding the connectors. And most of you will know from my other videos that I prefer using T25 or T50 staples for this. I also recommend using 2 at a time and using groups of 3 on all the segments except for the 2 inches, which will only need 2 groups. After adding all my staple connections, I went ahead and sealed them in with white glue, but you could use Mod Podge or whatever it is you got. I've used hot glue in the past, that works fine too. Now on to painting. My first step was to cover the entire thing in a base coat, which is burnt umber, water, and a little bit of the podge. The rest of the painting was all downhill from here. I decided to use 3 different dry brushes, starting with the color they call cinnamon. Then I moved on to brushing it all with a khaki before deciding there wasn't enough gray tones, so I hit the whole thing with a pewter gray. So after I was done dry brushing those 3 colors on, I decided to hit everything in my 2 favorite washes, brown and black. If you don't know what goes into these washes, I'll leave a link down below to my floor video. That's where I cover it. I'd like to take this moment to thank all my amazing patrons, especially Michael, who's been pledging at the shop foreman level. Ultimately, it's because of amazing people like you that I'll be able to continue bringing you guys content just like this. I also want to take another second to thank everybody who's subscribed. For a small channel like me, it really does mean the world to me. So thank you. And finally, can I take a second to recognize that warrior who's been going through my content and giving me the thumbs down? If you'd like to leave a comment so I know where I can improve, maybe I can turn that frown upside down. So thanks for watching, and until next time, keep all your fantasy fantastic.